Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hooks, Lines, and Hip Hop. I'm Hakeem.
Jacob.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a minute.
It has been a long time.
What is it, 3 months?
Yeah. You got a new job.
Yep.
Graduated.
2 jobs. And school.
Yep. I had some personal stuff. Moved. About to move again. Which that brings some good news for the channel. We're going to have a little bit of rebranding, so to speak. So look around February to have a new look, some new formats.
Possibly a new name.
Yep. We're working on that.
Yep.
Going to try to bring more content rather than just one a month or one every time there's an album that the two of us kind of agree that we either like or have polarizing opinions on.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
Yeah. I was thinking we could do maybe some quick thoughts on stuff that's come out. I mean, I know some of it's in our top 10, but what are some like big albums that have come out recently? I mean, the first one I can think of is Dummy Boy.
Yeah,
And
as far as polarizing.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it was trash, but I think it was Day 69 toned down, washed up, and commercialized. And just bringing Kanye and Nicki Minaj in to two of the most unlikable people in hip-hop right now, jumping onto Tekashi 69 to kind of up their street cred a little bit and up their money.
It's worked. He's been up there with Travis in Astroworld.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about the whole Nielsen It's not a scandal.
Yeah, it was a bit of a scandal.
Sort of, but who cares? We all know Travis's album is better.
Yeah, by a mile.
I mean, the only person that probably thinks otherwise is 6ix9ine.
And looking at your list, I mean, it's pretty close.
We'll see. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So, just your number rating
For Dummy Boy?
Yeah.
I didn't actually rate that one, but I would probably say like a 7.
Okay. What about?
And I'll talk about why it would get that grade later.
Yes. I want to pop out just some quick ratings because I feel bad that we didn't get to speak on these. But hip hop's just been coming out at this like breakneck pace. Also, I mean, even if we were to do a podcast a week, it wouldn't be enough.
No.
Because Friday 5 albums drop.
Yeah.
And you don't have time to process 5 albums dropping.
No.
But
Meek Mill's album was a commercial success.
I don't care.
I will say he came back. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. There were a few songs that I actually did like.
I listened to the Rick Ross and Jay-Z songs.
It's a good track.
It was good. I think he
Once
was
again,
dissing 6ix9ine on there.
Yeah, or Rick Ross especially.
Yeah, Rick Ross was.
He caught a lot of flack for using the F word.
Oh.
To describe homosexuals is the
Sure.
word I'm referring to. I know he caught a lot for that. I mean, Rick Ross is also the man that talked about putting Molly in a girl's drink.
She didn't even know it.
Yeah, so
Yeah. He lost a Reebok deal for that, though. This time he's not really facing any
bye-bye
backlash.
Checkers. Bye-bye Wingstop.
Oh, no bye-bye Wingstop.
And then, of course, everybody tried to pit Kanye and Jay-Z against each other, and Jay-Z spoke on Twitter, and we know that's rare to see Jay-Z come out on Twitter.
And he referenced it in that song as well.
Yeah.
That when you're that, what was it, like the same color?
He said, don't try to, I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
Prince and Michael, me and Ye. He said something, he made the rhyme where it says, they like to do that when you got Prince and Michael's DNA.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Which, that caught a lot of flack too, but if you really look at it,
They are very much on that level.
Yes.
I don't think that was a terrible comparison at all. I think they're both on that level. I think they're both equally polarizing figures. For sure, Kanye is Michael in this situation, minus the sexual scandals, but he does have his own scandals, you know. And then you've got Jay-Z, who is not fighting for his masters, but definitely on the business end is a lot sharper. And there was rumors about Prince kind of struggling in that aspect before he died.
Right.
So I think that's a perfect comparison, and they're both iconic on that level. So
another thing that we missed as far as not putting out as much content is the 7-track Kanye produced albums.
I thought we talked about those.
I don't think we did.
Oh, okay. Well, I think out of those 7 that came out, Daytona is amazing. Kids See Ghosts is incredible. Yay is fantastic.
Tiana Taylor's album was good too. That
Tiana
one didn't make
Taylor's
my
was
list
good.
because it wasn't. I think when I did my first draft of the list, I wrote it wasn't rap enough.
For me, yeah, and also I think for me, it wasn't so much Kanye's production that really highlighted that track. It's just Tiana Taylor has an incredibly powerful voice, and it's a great album.
I
do
was
remember
shocked. I didn't know
enjoying
she
it.
could sing like that.
Yeah, I hadn't heard much from her before, but I did play it a couple of times. Unfortunately, like I said, with music coming out at that pace, you also don't have time to appreciate albums the way you used to, where an album, maybe 2 albums a month would come out.
Yeah.
Do you remember that time where you would have time to really sit with an album and you'd play it for probably a couple of years?
I think, also that's a reason that long albums like Culture 2 are kind of overlooked now, because there's so much content coming out. You don't have the time to sit there and listen to an hour and 20-minute long album anymore. That's why you're seeing these 7-track albums be successful, these like mini EPs be successful. Like 2 Chainz, the album that had Proud on it.
Yeah. Was that the Pink House one?
No, that I had it as an honorable mention.
Did you really? He put something out this year?
I actually didn't write it. It was the one that had Proud. The first track was Okay Bitch. You remember that? It's black and white zebra skin.
Yeah.
Super
Okay, I do
successful.
remember that one. Yeah.
Because it was so short. Fans get the opportunity to listen to all that and not feel like they have to listen for 2 hours.
But it's a double-edged sword, because then it was there, it was hot for that moment, and then you're on to the next. It's
Just
very
depends on-
sad. Streaming is so sad to me. As somebody who really used to love hip-hop, streaming is kind of hard for
What's
me
the
to
last
accept.
physical CD that you bought?
I bought a lot of vinyl this year.
I have 2.
The last vinyl I bought was Ye.
Okay. The last one, it's funny, the last vinyl and the last CD I bought were both question mark.
Right. And I was with you when you bought that one. I
And
remember
that's
that.
just because, I mean, you'll know from the list later, but
Yeah.
obviously we're both big X fans.
Yeah.
Speaking about the list, do you want to go 1 through 10, or you just want to go number for number? So I'll give you my 1, you give me your 1.
We can do it however.
Do you want to go? We'll start at 10.
All right.
For number 10, I had J. Cole's KOD. It's a great album. I think it's one of his best, but the replay value is kind of low because it is a really depressing message. I mean, it's the truth. The production was great. The tour was amazing. I went and saw that it had J. Cole on it.
How was he live?
J. Cole was great live.
Was he?
I mean, you remember the Forest Hills Drive album he put out live, and it was really good.
Yeah.
No, it was J. Cole, Young Thug, Jaden Smith, Earth Gang. Jid came out and did a set with Earth Gang. T.I. ended up showing up because it was in Atlanta.
You have to go through T.I. to perform in Atlanta.
He's the
He has to
promoter.
perform.
Did KOD make your list? I know we did review that one.
It did, but then a couple knocked it off. So it was an honorable mention for sure. Which I was going to say before we continue. So KOD is your 10. What were your honorable mentions?
The honorable mentions, Oxnard, Anderson .Paak, Young Sinatra, Logic, Skins, which is the X album that just came out this past week, Immigrant, Belly. He is super underrated.
Yeah, he really is.
Yay by Kanye. I'll talk about that later. Some of the other ones just overshined that album. And then Taboo, Denzel Curry.
Oh, God.
That's on your list, isn't it?
Yeah.
I knew it would be.
My honorable mentions were J. Cole's KOD because it really was about 8. It was number 8 on my list before it got knocked off. Kids See Ghost, Kali Uchis Isolation, which kind of like what you were saying about Tiana Taylor, just wasn't rapping up.
Right.
But it's an incredibly beautiful album, and her and Tyler worked together a lot, and that's how she kind of became famous. Also, I had Death Grips. Death Grips album that dropped this year was on there. And Mac Miller's Swimming, even though I didn't end up liking it that much, but we'll talk about that.
All right. I just want to say one more thing about KOD because I don't want it to be misconstrued. I'm not saying that the message is too depressing to listen to. Obviously, X's music we're both big fans of, and his music is depressing at times.
But it is emotionally draining to talk about the topic he's talking about,
Right.
especially in the way that he is, where he really, it's like a very sobering message, which a lot of times you're not always looking forward to hearing.
Right.
You know, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. No pun intended.
Yeah, Kids on Drugs.
Wink.
Yeah. Did you know that Tech Nine had an album called KOD also?
Oh, shit.
I saw that when I was searching.
So disrespectful.
But to who?
To Tech Nine, son. Don't you disrespect
All
Tech
right, what's
Nine.
number 10?
I will break this podcast up right now.
What's number 10 for you?
Kanye West, Yay.
Okay.
That probably would have ended up higher had I had more time to look at. I made this list probably back in November, and then I updated it since then. But Kanye West, Yay is probably my favorite album since Life of Pablo, which wasn't that the last one he put out? So he's just batting
yes.
30 for 30 in my book because
Yeah.
I liked Yeezus as well. My favorite song on there is "I Thought About Killing You."
Yeah.
Something about the way he makes something so fucked up come out beautiful and sweet almost is amazing.
All of it's honestly good. The thing about Kanye, which is surprising, he's obviously got a family now, and everybody thought, okay, he's just jumping to the Kardashian family because they're hot. But you can tell in his music, he's talking about real stuff now. I mean, he was on 808s when it came to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It was kind of angsty almost. He wasn't really talking about anything serious, but you could tell there was pain going on in his life. And then Life of Pablo started to change that, and you saw him start rapping about his life.
I think Life of Pablo is it's conceptually insane, which I think Kanye is literally insane in the most complimentary way. I'm saying that because I think My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, what that actually was him talking about the life that he wanted to live.
Yeah.
You know, where the flashing lights, becoming this big celebrity, fucking a porn star.
Hell of a life.
Hell of a life. It really did. He kind of just rapped what he wanted and
he's outgrown the braggadocious rap. Probably is the easiest way to say. I mean, he still does it. But that's not his niche.
No.
Like it was with Throne.
I don't know what his niche is. What is
he
his
doesn't
niche?
have it.
He might come out with a flex
with a
album,
gospel album or a rock album.
Or what about Watch the Throne 2? You remember Watch the Throne 1? Everybody said it was like they're talking about the most expensive, lavish lifestyle that nobody can relate to.
Right.
So what do you think they're going to do on the second one? I don't even know if that one will happen.
I don't think it will.
I hope it will.
But yeah, it was good. I'll talk about it a little more.
Yeah,
because
that was my number 10. That was my number 10.
All right, my number 9, which the J. Cole stands would not like this, but Dummy Boy 6ix9ine.
That's disgusting.
And in my notes it says substance ? Well, there is none, and that's the truth. There is no substance in the album, but the album slaps. I know we talked about it before we started
The album
tonight.
slaps.
It does slap.
I'm going to put
Heaters.
that on your tombstone.
Heaters.
Dummy Boy. The album slaps.
You have to admit he had good chemistry with the features, regardless of what you think about Nicki.
It's very easy to have good features when you just make your voice this monotoned, auto-tuned drone. Yeah, I could sound really good with a bee killer, or what is it, the fly killer that just. Yeah, everybody could sound good with that.
You didn't like Fifi?
No, I sure as shit didn't.
Nicki Minaj's verse was better than.
The only time I look
rest
for
of it.
Nicki Minaj is when I'm looking at her music videos to see what she's wearing.
All
I just want to see that ass.
Okay, what's your number 9? Obviously, it's not Dummy Boy.
It's obviously not. Denzel Curry's Taboo.
Okay.
Which, when that was coming out, it was really cool because it was playing off the fact that we don't like long albums anymore in the streaming era. So it would come out 5 songs at a time, part 1 through 3. So it gave you the best of both worlds. So by the time the whole album was out, it's like, oh, I've listened to all of this.
Right.
I have my favorite parts from each part that's released. And it was fantastic. All the visuals were great. Denzel Curry he's been in the underground a lot, working with people like.
I overlooked him, to be honest.
Yeah, he just came from that Florida scene, and he really is proof that you can have this hardcore sound, and you can also be lyrical and rapping your ass off. I'm not saying that people haven't done it in the past. I just don't think they've done it as well as him.
All right, number 8 for me is some rap songs by Earl. And if I'd have looked at this list like 3 years ago, I'd have been like, how in the world is an Earl album underneath anyone else, really?
Yeah.
We talked about this before, kind of texting. The lyrical content most definitely outshines the aesthetics or the sound.
I thought that, yeah.
I mean, and that's the kid's dad's a poet, so it's in his pedigree.
Rest in peace to his dad.
Yes. That honestly probably delayed this album a year.
Between that and losing Mac and the fact that he's such a perfectionist, I could see why it didn't drop. I will say, though, the more I've sat with that album, the more the production has grown on me. I'm not saying it's perfect, and I still think it's kind of abrasive and can at times make Earl's voice seem a bit toned down. Mm-hmm. So you definitely do have to. I think you have to like Earl first, and you can't really just be a casual hip hop fan. You can't. I'm not saying you can't listen. You can listen to Tekashi 6ix9ine and Earl if you liked Earl first. But if you like Tekashi 6ix9ine first, then you can't really jump onto an Earl. It's like the idea of like a rhombus can be a square, but a square can't be a rhombus.
Exactly.
So if you're into that lyrical content, if you're into very obscure rap, very sad. You want to talk about a sad album? Like,
Yeah.
listen to that one. I mean, Some Rap Songs is not just some rap songs. That's what I think is funny about the title as well. You know.
And I made the comparison before we started tonight that it's kind of Earl's Cherry Bomb. If you ask any like stan of Tyler, they're going to tell you Cherry Bomb was a good album, but commercially Cherry Bomb was not very
Myself
good.
included.
Cherry Bomb is a very creative album, but like you said, the casual hip hop fan or the casual Earl fan is not going to rock with it like they would Doris or I Don't Like Shit.
With Earl, the replay value at first seems low, but come back to this album in a month, and
Well, you're going to have to because the dude's not going to drop another album for 3 or 4 years.
But that's the point. That's fine with me. When you were remember when I Don't Like Shit was out, and you're like, he's never putting out something again. I'm like, dude, it's coming. It's fine.
It gives you time. It gives you time to appreciate it. It doesn't have to be killer out the gate. Look, Kanye West Through the Wire just became platinum like 3 days ago.
Yeah,
That could be argued as one of his best songs ever.
it is for sure.
So you have to give it the time to grow.
Yeah, it needs some time to mature. And with Earl, like I said, I don't think you can really listen to this album once and tell me you like it or not. Because if on my first listen, it was underwhelming. But after 3 or 4 listens, after reading the lyrics, like when I found out that part in the song where there's a poem, it's kind of remind me of what Kendrick did on To Pimp a Butterfly, where at the end of each song he had a poetry lyric slipped in, and then you tie it all together and it's a full poem. He did that with his dad's poetry on one of the tracks on Some Rap Songs, and it's beautiful. It's different. It's sad. It's everything I kind of like, especially around this time of year when it's cold and I live alone. So just need time to cry.
You got Jack.
Sometimes. It's Jack, dude. He's a big boy and he hides in
Black
his
Bear.
crate all day. Yeah, shout out to the Black Bear.
All right, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Pusha T's Daytona. And that one was really, just straight bars. And on top of the fact that he was beefing with Drake, and then we got Story of Adidon on top of that. It was a really incredible time.
That's on my list, and we'll get to the where I ranked it later.
Yeah.
But I wrote, quote, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
You could listen to this Pusha T song in 2008 or 9, and it would sound like it fits the era. He's kind of like Rick Ross. He doesn't really change too much of his flow and delivery. If it's broke, don't fix it. It's been commercially successful, and it will continue to be successful.
The good thing about this album, too, is the production is a bit more timeless than what Pusha T normally hops on, thanks to Kanye's input. So I actually think this album will age a lot better than some of Pusha T's past projects.
You talked about the Story of Adidon. It was a great album, had enormous hype after the release. And Rick Ross and Pusha T, too smooth.
Yeah.
They need a collab.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. It's definitely a good album if you just want some bars, if you just want some,
Looking
great.
at the rap industry in a whole, Daytona is a good eligible album for album of the year. I've heard a lot of people, Complex has talked about it. There's been a lot of people that have said that is a contender for album of the year.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the Grammys, we're just talking overall.
For sure, out of all the hip hop releases, it's something that's gritty enough. It's the production is captivating. The picture of Whitney Houston's bathroom as the album art even just it says a lot too. Again, it's the full package of that album that just does a lot to me, and that has a lot to. You have to give credit to Kanye because he's definitely has a lot of input on that.
Mm-hmm. And he knows how to be edgy and do something edgy that's going to generate buzz.
Exactly.
The man built the last half of his career on that.
Yeah.
All right, number 7 for me was Come Over When You're Sober Part 2.
So interesting that you picked that.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I've talked about it on a podcast, but I've talked to you about it. I've talked to other people about it. When I watched his funeral, his mom talked about how when they were out shopping or out together, people would look at Gus and see him and cross the street because they wouldn't want to walk past him. She could see people judging him just based off of his looks. And I don't know if it was you. I think it may have been Mikkel. I don't know if I've referenced him on the podcast, but he's a friend of ours. He tried to get me to listen to him. I said, dude, I don't need any more Lil rappers. I looked at what he looked like. I was like, I don't want this in my life. It's just another Lil Pump, Smoke Perp, not to discredit them and what they've done for hip-hop.
We like Smoke Perp, just to be clear.
But I did the same thing that all these people did, and that honestly, she said that is what led to his substance abuse because he couldn't finish school because of the way people treated him. And that kind of was like, hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I did that to him, and I overlooked how good this kid was just based off the way he looked, because I never really gave him a chance. Didn't really like the mixtape. You talked about that.
Yeah.
But this album does not sound like it was put out after his death. I thought it was a great job by Peep. Obviously, before he died, he had a lot of stuff in the catalog, but the record label did a good job with putting it together, and it sounds like an album. I would not know he was dead by listening to that album.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think you're right that it was predominantly finished by Peep. You know, I wouldn't doubt that. I think Come Over When You're Sober was supposed to be one album, and they cut it in half because they could. Because you could make an album shorter. I don't really think there was supposed to be a part 1 and part 2. However, you can definitely tell in the second album versus the first, versus his mixtapes, that the production was a lot more cleaned up. His vocals were a bit more auto-tuned out. It was not the same. There wasn't this punk aesthetic that I think Peep gravitates to usually.
No, not as much. And
Yeah.
I will say this for his label. It is easier to come in and have to make a posthumous album with his style of music. If Kanye died,
good luck.
there's
not
no
coming
way
out.
he would be able to do it.
And I
Because-
don't think he would want you to put it
No.
out if he died.
But like, and even with X, his music was kind of raw too. So with it being a raw product, there's a lot of X's music and Peep's music that came out that listening the first time, you're like, this sounds unfinished.
You could argue that the X album, Skins, despite the fact that I enjoyed it, I think there were only 2 songs on there that were truly finished.
Oh, most definitely.
I think the rest of it were snippets, and unfortunately, when X was alive, he would put out shorter songs like Moonlight. Like, arguably, I mean, that's really just a snippet, like a
Right.
loop for about a minute and a half with a verse and then a loop again towards the end. So they were able to get away with it. With Peep, I don't think these songs were snippets. However, I don't think they were mastered and done in a way that Peep would have done it. And that doesn't make me dislike the album too much, but it definitely shows the money-hungry side of a label trying to make an artist who was not originally commercially viable, more commercially viable, especially when you have the song with X and him that came out.
Right.
Gus was bisexual. And the fact that X has a pretty graphic story talking about beating up a gay man in jail on No Jumper, the fact that he did have the controversy before he died where he had some domestic abuse charges, I don't think that Peep would have worked with him, despite there being a similar aesthetic. So the Peep fans were definitely more upset about that album, that song
Right.
happening. So despite the sound being good, there was a bit of controversy, a bit of money grubbing that I think is expected whenever a big artist dies.
Right. And you have to look at his age in the rap game. He came up and he had just signed a deal. Same with X. So this label had sunk money into Peep. And yes, it's tragic, but at the end of the day, it's like
They have to make their
NFL or the NBA. It's a business.
Yeah.
But I think they did a decent job by doing right by him. Obviously, the X, it was pandering.
Yeah. It wasn't,
Not to say it's not good.
No.
And you could tell by the little snippet that X had talking about Peep. I think he genuinely did kind of the same way I felt. He didn't really notice him, and he says, like, people notice you after you're dead. Mm-hmm. And I think that has happened with X too. All these X fans are everywhere. Mm-hmm. Same with Peep.
Yeah, I could see that. Like you said, you're right. For the most part, it was done fairly well. However, I do have some qualms about putting out an album after somebody has died.
Number 6, or you're number 7.
My number 7 is Earl Sweatshirt, some rap songs, so we could keep going.
Okay.
I give that album an 8 out of 10, by the way.
I didn't rate that one. I rated some of these. I don't know why I
Yeah.
didn't finish that. Number 6 for me is Jid's DiCaprio 2.
Okay.
When he dropped his first album, I liked it. I mean, he had DiCaprio, which I think was actually a mixtape, and he had another album. It was like yellow and black cover art.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I liked it. It was a good first album. But this one kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't know it was coming out. I mean, just like J. Cole, Dreamville does not do what TDE does as far as marketing. So it was kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The production was good.
Production was spectacular.
Night and day growth from the first album. His flow and delivery is incredible. The features were great.
What do you feel about people who say that he's Kendrick inspired? He's biting off Kendrick.
I don't. Kendrick's kind of got away from the high pitched voice. I mean, he only does it. I don't want to compare these two, but Kendrick and Nicki have a good kind of talent of using voice inflection to change flow and delivery.
Okay, I almost slapped you.
Yeah, they have a good talent of voice inflection. Okay. Jid has a high pitched voice anyway. Kendrick's is kind of raspy, kind of like a Yoda voice.
I was just thinking about the Goosebumps feature. That's probably the only thing I can compare to. I think he sounds more like Anderson .Paak.
Yeah, a good blend.
A good blend between those two. And to be honest, the only reason why I brought that up is because I hear it a lot. When I posted this album on my Snapchat, I had a lot of my friends telling me, "Well, he sounds like Kendrick," and I'm like, "No, he really doesn't." Because
are they rap fans though, or were they just like music fans?
No, for sure. I mean, anybody who really hits me up on Snapchat or on any of my social media is a rap fan because I get good conversations out of people. And thanks to everybody that is listening right now that knows me personally.
He had a song on there. It's called Off D's with J. Cole. That is the best J. Cole feature I've ever heard.
It's one of them. I think the whole album is just it's fun.
I rated that one a 6 out of 10, and mainly because the tracks with features seem to stand out more to me. I mean, he had Method Man on one. I mean, who gets a Method Man feature?
Not very many people can.
He had BJ the Chicago Kid, and I've talked several times about how much I like BJ. We don't talk about a lot of R&B on here, but BJ the Chicago Kid, not to troll Jaquez. If we're gonna rate those two, BJ the Chicago Kid is the king of R&B.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I haven't listened to his music.
That's all over Twitter. I don't know if you've seen that, but Jaquez called himself the king of R&B, and everybody's trolling him.
Oh God.
Yeah. What's your number 6?
My number 6 on my phone log is FM by Vince Staples.
Okay.
That's one of those short albums. There's a concept to it. The whole theme is so fun to me because it sounds like you're listening to Big Boy's radio.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
That was cool. Yeah. And Big Boy's kind of an exclusive. That's hard to score.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't do stuff like that. The last thing he kind of did like that for an artist or for a brand was Grand Theft Auto. Mm-hmm. He was on a channel in the in-game radio.
Then another cool thing was the fact that it really does Vince is the king of concept albums to me, almost to the point where he's like a Kanye. You know, you listen to Big Fish Theory, you listen to Prima Donna.
Yeah, the last 2 albums have been like that.
Yeah, you listen to this one. It's never the same thing, although you can always guarantee that there's going to be good lyrics. It's a conceptual album that I think worked, and it's short enough to where you're going to replay it a lot.
And he has a unique voice, and it's not harsh, because Jid's voice can kind of be harsh. Danny Brown's voice can be harsh, but Vince has a unique sound that is aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, and also he raps about conscious issues, but not in a way that comes off as pandering or contrived.
Yeah, or preachy.
No. Yeah,
like we both obviously love All American Badass, but that almost is too much to the point.
Sure. I think that one is good, though. I think you need that a little bit, and I think Joey Badass can do it in a way where it's still not as bad. I think one that's more preachy and is terrible is Vic Mensa's album that came out that year.
Oh, yeah. We've had a conversation.
The water's dirty. No shit, Vic. Thank you. Go put out a fake goth album now, you bitch. R.I.P. Vic's career.
What's your number 6?
It was the FM by Vince.
Okay. Number 5 for me was Kids See Ghosts. I rated that 8 out of 10.
Wow, I'm surprised you didn't give that one a 10.
No. I mean, I wrote in my notes, I said it's an incredible collab. These two bring out the best in each other. Mm-hmm. They always have. And you can kind of tell that by the relationship. The people that have like the best relationships don't really always get along that well. And they've had their issues. Obviously, it's been outspoken. Mm-hmm. But the production on this is top notch because Kid Cudi obviously has a very good idea for sound, and so does Kanye. I would love to know how many hours were actually put into this because there had to be a lot of back and forth, like Kid Cudi saying, I don't like this. Yeah. And Kanye saying, I like this, but I don't like this. There's a lot of I would say, I don't want to say cut and paste, but I bet there was a lot of back and forth, let's do this. No, let's do this. I think it was, that would have been an interesting environment to be a fly on the wall for.
anytime Kanye's in a studio with somebody, there's just this constant back and forth. And also, let's remember that Kid Cudi did not end on the best of terms for a while.
No.
So it was really good to see that this collab actually happened. And I think there's been enough time since, really when the split happened was when Kid Cudi put out Indicud.
Yeah.
And that's because the first pressing of the albums had good music on there. The ones afterwards didn't. And so for a while we didn't hear any collaborations.
And as far as like my favorite tracks, I wrote literally all. This is an album that you can put on and not skip.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Astroworld by Travis Scott.
Okay, ours were close.
Yeah, it really was.
Mine's number 4, so we can just talk about this together. Go ahead.
Astroworld, Travis Scott, you know what you're getting from Travis. However, I think every single time he's been able to refine his sound in a way that's, yes, it's becoming more popular, but it's not, the quality is not going down. So I'm okay with it. And also, people like Gunna and 21 Savage, who artists on their own, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of their individual projects. Or even Gunna and Lil Baby's collaborative project, I wasn't really a huge fan of that. He takes them and elevates them to his level and mixes them in a way that works for him.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for Nav.
Okay.
But Nav, I don't like Nav, but I like Nav on that album.
Nothing works for Nav.
You don't like
nothing
that?
works for Nav. Nothing. No, actually, that's the only person that you can't elevate
Like
to. Nav is actually a computer program. Did you know that? He's actually not a person. He's the first AI robot that loves Off-White and talked about working on that bean, yeah. Did you know he loves $200 underwear too? He rapped about that.
I don't listen to him, so.
I've had
like Toro y Moi, amazing artist,
awesome.
Not a rapper, but I loved what he did with Travis on Rodeo. That goes
it's
to
not
the point.
somebody
He
you would normally listen to.
Travis can elevate people
Except
to his
for
level.
Matt.
And look at the way this man blew up. I don't know, you're not on Twitter as much as I am.
I'm completely gone off Twitter.
There was a video going around of Travis performing for 1,000 people 4 years ago, and now he's selling out Madison Square Garden twice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
He's playing weekend size
Yes.
venues.
I saw him last year for the Birds tour. I wish I'd have went to the Astroworld tour this year.
Yeah.
I said I don't really want to go. I saw him last year, and I
regret
really wish I did because Trippie Redd opened with him.
He's
Sheck
gone now.
West,
He jumped off the tour.
Sheck West was on there. I mean, that would have just been hype to hear Mo Bamba live.
He actually only plays Mo Bamba for 12 minutes and then gets off stage.
But Astroworld, great album.
What were your favorite tracks off that one?
They're kind of deep cuts. Sicko Mode is good for what it is, but
And that's a Drake song.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
5%, Rip Screw. That's kind of a commercial song. NC-17, Coffee Bean, and Butterfly Effect. Obviously, that one was all over the radio. But I've talked about this. I don't really listen to the radio, so I'm still bumping Forever by Drake, Eminem, Kanye, and Lil Wayne.
I played that song the other day and still knew it by heart.
It's
And I was
amazing.
like, oh, God. I liked Houston Fornication the most. Oh, my God. Yosemite, back when Nav was muted down. That was a really good... I don't know why
Thanks,
he fixed
Kanye,
that.
for paving that road of an album being a living and breathing document like the Constitution.
I think what happens is they have to put shit out so quickly that they fuck up the mixing half the time
Yeah.
anyways.
But marketing, success.
Oh,
tour, merch, the hype,
let's talk
the
about the
visuals.
music video. Yeah,
Yes.
dude, Yosemite is an incredible... And guess who's not in it? Nav.
You remember the trailer he put out where he's kind of walking through that apocalyptic?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He's sitting high as shit, as always, and just going through this weird galactic experience, acid probably tripping balls.
Could he be? I don't want to say the trap Kanye West, but could he be like the hype Kanye?
I
he
think
has
he
obviously,
influenced
yeah,
Kanye.
obviously, Yeezus would not exist without Travis.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get another rodeo, but I think if he gives me one more classic, I'll put him on that platform of Kanye. Otherwise, he was not there yet.
See, I love Rodeo, but my favorite album is Birds.
It's no, but I could see why you like it.
I was actually reading an article about this where a lot of Travis fans were talking about what their favorite albums are, and the three of them, the last three, obviously, Days Before Rodeo, crazy mixtape, but there was not really a consensus on what the best Travis album is.
the consensus is the best album is Rodeo. It's literally, if you want to talk about a trap classic, that's the only, that and Dirty Sprite 2.
Dirty Sprite 2 is pretty good.
Dirty Sprite 2 and Rodeo are quality album level trap albums. Other than that, maybe Culture 1, maybe you could put it on there because it really did put Migos on the map. And yeah, I think Rodeo objectively is the best one. I think that amongst fans, there's debate.
Like there's every now and then there's some songs I'll skip on Rodeo. But I can.
I'm so interested in this.
The long one, 3,500, gets boring to me. I don't know.
Fair.
I guess it was a single and we all heard it a lot, but that one, Impossible, not a huge.
Okay.
It may also be that's an album I keep in my car. So if I'm going on like a short trip or I don't want to hook my phone up to Bluetooth, I'll just pop that in. So it may just be overplayed for me. But Birds, I can put that on and listen all the way through.
I skipped the Juicy J track.
Yes, God.
Yeah, that's probably the
Wasted?
only one. Yeah, that's the only one.
That drops it from a 10 to a 9 for sure.
Yeah, I would say that too. On Birds, though, the only issue I have with putting Birds above Rodeo is you wouldn't have Birds without Rodeo.
Right.
Because a lot of that is kind of an afterthought from Rodeo. I think a lot of those songs were created in the same headspace as Rodeo.
Maybe.
So that's my only argument for it. But it is. I have both of them on vinyl, to be clear. So I love both of them.
What's your number 4?
Number 4,
number 4 was mine.
I switched it
Astroworld.
last second, literally just now. Was
From what?
I switched it from Jid to DiCaprio 2 because I just haven't listened to it enough, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't replayed it much. To Juice WRLD's Goodbye and Good Riddance.
Okay.
The reason why I put that one up there so high is because I listened to it from Asheville to Greenville straight 3 times. Because there was this month where I was hanging out with this girl up there. Shout out if she's listening. I'm not going to say her name. But
Classy.
Classy. But she yeah, so I was just listening to that album, and what I like about Juice WRLD is, first of all, the fact that he got a collaboration with Future is legendary. Mm-hmm. I think that puts him in a different category. The fact that he does take influence from Post Malone, but without overtly biting in the same.
I think I wouldn't say he take influence. I mean, you can't help the way your voice sounds.
You
Regardless
can.
of what the auto-tune does to it, like Jid, like we were making that comparison, Jid and Kendrick and Anderson .Paak all have a similar voice.
But his sounds natural. Juice WRLD is. Have you heard him without autotune?
No, most
don't
rappers
want to.
that use autotune, you wouldn't want to
That
hear.
heavily,
Right.
And yeah, but that album to me is something that was. It's kind of another place marker, where there's another shift in hip hop. Like Trippie Redd for sure is a place marker in this. However, he's just not as big as Juice WRLD, so I have to give it to Juice WRLD first. But it's a place marker where this emo sound kind of took over for a little while. So I think that's important.
You mentioned the notoriety that came with like a Future collab.
Yeah.
Whose career do you think that helped more, Future's or Juice WRLD's?
Now I still think Future is not hurting. I don't think Future's hurting.
What rapper right now really
It helps
would
his
be
relevance. It helps his relevance, yes. But Juice WRLD literally in 2011 said, "When I do a collab with Future, I'll know I made it." So I think it was mutual there.
Right, but right now, who would say when
Right now, Juice WRLD is the hotter artist. For sure. And that album to me doesn't have a lot of replay value. There are a few good songs on there, but
You're
not
referencing
something
the
I
Future
care.
collab, right?
Yeah, not good. Goodbye.
What
Good Riddance.
Future?
That's amazing.
That dude has some issues, unless he's just kind of playing up the whole emos, and that could have been the influence he got from Juice WRLD, kind of playing off the emo.
I don't know
scene.
who Future is. I don't think he is who he portrays in his music.
No, that's kind of the reason I don't really rock with him too much, is
Yeah.
because I like artists that are genuinely about what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I don't know if
So-
many of these artists are, but I think Future for sure is not.
To reinforce that, obviously 6ix9ine's doing what he's talking about. 32 to life.
He's snitching.
I don't want to branch out, or kind of go out on a rabbit hole, but that kid is smart. He used all this controversy and I let my nuts hang.
Can you
And
believe
it blew him up.
Can you believe he was the smaller artist on Polls 69?
Yeah.
Can you? That's
No,
where
it's crazy.
Heard him. That's where I first heard him, and then he comes out and dude, when he was beefing with Juice WRLD, this is the funniest clip of 2018. He's hanging out with this thick girl, and he goes, she goes, let's have sex, and he goes, nah, babe, let's read a book, and then they go upstairs, and all of a sudden in the shadow, she's getting fucked by some dude, and then in the background is, I still see your shadows in my room, and he's crying in the corner. That is the most savage thing I've ever seen.
He's a funny kid. He's a smart kid, and he let
He's
his
stupid.
dumb stupid. Are you dumb? Dumb. For such a smart kid, very dumb.
Yeah.
And we can leave that where it's at.
Yeah, and I hope everything works out with this case because I think he's needed in this climate. I think he's fun, regardless of what I think of his music. I love his Instagram. So,
well, honestly, I don't want to stay on this too much, but I wouldn't be too upset if he had to serve. I mean, it's an example to these young rappers.
I think the biggest example. Let's just talk about how many people we lost this year.
Right, exactly. You've lost X to violence, and he in the beginning of his career promoted violence. That was a
Praised
component
violence,
of, exactly.
Went to jail for violent acts. I mean, I don't want to say this and be morbid, but he lived what he talked about.
Yeah, and it's time for this young generation of rappers to kind of get it.
We don't even have a 27 club. I
Nope.
mean, really, what Mac Miller probably the only one that reached that age.
Yep.
Or was he a little older? I think.
He was a little older.
Yeah. Still very sad.
Speaking of that, let's move on to number 3. Speaking of Mac Miller, Swimming made mine. I won't read exactly what I wrote down because I'll get trolled for it. I thought it was a good hybrid
Please read it.
of
Please read it.
Good AM and the Divine Feminine. I hated the Divine Feminine. There were like 2 songs I liked on it. It was just too much singing, and the production wasn't that good. Yeah. He took the production value of Good AM and matched it with. I think that Good AM was a good produced album. Yeah. This album was produced better, honestly. If you're looking at just the instrumentals and the overall sound quality, I like this better.
How about this? Just don't compare Good AM to Swimming at all. Just leave it because this Good AM is Mac Miller's. I think that's if somebody asked me, hey, what was Mac Miller remembered for? I'd be like, here, enjoy. I wouldn't give him Swimming. I wouldn't give him Swimming. I wouldn't give him Divine Femininity. I wouldn't give him any of the mixtapes. I wouldn't give him Blue Slide Park. Again, I listened to all of these, but Good AM to me is untouched. You should that and watching movies with the sounds off and
underrated.
Faces mixtape. Oh my god. Okay, so he does have some bops.
Most definitely. Yeah. And let's talk about this. This album is as well as X's. We'll talk about that later. These albums could have stood alone on this list regardless of their death.
Yes.
This album would have made my list if both of them were still breathing.
And this album did not make my list regardless of whether he died or not.
Right,
it made my honorable mention
that's
because
noble,
he died.
Because we kind of referenced this earlier this afternoon. Honestly, he probably got this Grammy nomination because of the death.
Yeah,
which is cool. I mean, I understand it. They're wanting to show because this man was a gentle soul.
Yeah.
When you think of rappers, Mac Miller is not the stereotypical connotation that most people would think of. And I think that may be the Grammys' way of saying, hey, rappers aren't what you see rappers as in the news.
And to honor Mac, somebody who's seen so much growth throughout his career. I mean, you go from the mixtape days where it was a little bit more frat boyish, particularly Blue Side Park, his debut album, but some of the moments on there, like Best Day Ever, I think are still some songs that I'll always keep in my heart because
it's like Wiz Khalifa music.
Yeah,
like sure. that era of that sound will always.
I rolled hella blunts to that album. I rolled hella blunts to a lot of Mac Miller albums, and I'm not saying that in like an edgy way. I'm saying that in a way where there's a lot of pleasant memories attached to his music. And I don't think I would have had him without it. And Macadelic is, oh my God, no, Macadelic is one of my favorite albums.
Shout out to Mac for putting that on iTunes.
Yeah, shout out to Mac for that.
Hopefully, I've seen rumors of this on the internet.
A vinyl?
That may be in the works, but there's been rumors that his whole discography may make it to iTunes.
I hope so.
Which that had kind of some pushback. I know everybody was trying to get Chance to put Acid Rap on iTunes. And he was like, no, that is a mixtape. I want it to be a mixtape.
No, that was my only good album. I don't want to spoil you guys and remind you my music is trash now.
But I think that would be a good way for it, because obviously Mac probably had some outstanding money to be earned for that label. So Rostrum may use that to kind of generate some streams.
I think that's an example of where the record label can do that, because this is stuff that Mac Miller put out in the past. If it gets the music to where more people hear it, that's great.
And obviously, when he made these mixtapes, he didn't have the infrastructure that he has or had now.
He was independent. He was
Right.
independent up until after watching movies.
And there's a distinct sound difference in Macadelic that's on iTunes and the Macadelic that's on DatPiff or Spinrilla. It's remastered. The
Listen
audio
to the one on
quality is
DatPiff.
better. Yeah, I mean it's nostalgic, but to appeal, it's utilitarian. To appeal to the most amount of people, the Macadelic that's on iTunes would obviously reach more people.
That's very true. And I was just kidding about the Chance stuff. It's just acid rap is
No
the
one's
only one
gonna
that
no
I
one's
loved.
gonna troll you for that.
Maybe a little bit. I would get a lot of trolls.
What's your third?
Says the guy with the 3 hat.
It's Dale Earnhardt. Rest in peace.
I like, as we're drinking Rolling Rock, I like A$AP Rocky's Testing. That album is, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I love when A$AP Rocky's being experimental. I love the sound of that album. The fact that he collabed with FKA Twigs, of all people. She's kind of a pop artist, but very ethereal pop. It's not something you're used to listening to. And their sounds mesh really well. The Kodak Black track where he gets him on the phone is so cool. That album to me, that's just a whole vibe. A$AP Rocky's lyrics are quality. I have nothing bad to say about that album. And I know a lot of people hated it, but the fact that it's also called Testing tells me that he was trying some shit out. And to me, most of it worked. And I know to a lot of people it didn't, but to me, that was it could have easily been number one for my year-end list.
See, I can't say too much about that. I've never really been a huge A$AP Rocky fan. I like A$AP Rocky, some of his features. I don't know. It's something I never really bought into. Not to say that he's not talented. And I think it's hard with artists, like he's huge into fashion. And it's hard for some of these artists that, obviously like Kanye, there's been some issues arise because of all the things he has his hands in. Yeah. And it's difficult when you have your focus spread on all these different things to please everybody in all those instances that you're trying to work in. I don't know. I think if he were to devote all of his attention to rap, he'd be a 10 times better artist. But that would take away, and rap may not be his sole focus, like Action Bronson. Mm-hmm. Action Bronson is an amazing rapper, but he just doesn't focus on music.
No, they're not even in the same, because Bronson is so far gone from music, dude. I mean, the last thing we got from him really that was an album was Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
When was that? 2014?
Yeah.
Like, that's very far gone. A$AP, you're right. He does have his hand in a lot, and I think, to be honest, like his looks give him a lot more leeway into fashion, and I think he's not taken as seriously as an artist as he should be, because he does a bit more of like a trap sound. But this album is just an example to me where the conceptual sound worked. However, I've been a big fan of Rocky. I think he's a lot better than A$AP Ferg. I don't really put them even on the same level.
Yeah, the A$AP Mob
label mates. A$AP Mob is like the Sex Pistols, where yeah, they're a group, but do you want to listen to the Sex Pistols? Not really.
No,
they're iconic as a group, and that's it.
I wouldn't even say the A$AP Mob is iconic, in my opinion.
A$AP Yams though. A$AP Yams, A$AP Rocky.
Yeah.
There are some iconic moments. I mean, even A$AP Ferg's Trap Lord.
Yeah.
Iconic moments, for sure.
What was the big one that had the Nicki remix? Plain Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great track.
Yeah.
My number two was Daytona. We've already talked about that. I'll give you my rating on that. It was an 8 out of 10.
Trippie Redd's A Love Letter to You 3.
See, I told you like 2 days ago I had to boil this list down from 24 albums to 10. And that was on, which one did you say?
A Love Letter to You 3.
I had that one on there, and then what was the other mixtape?
It had How You Feel on it. Hang on.
Yep. It was his actual album.
No, they were both his actual.
Were they both? I thought Love Letter to You 3 was like a mixtape.
No, Life's a Trip was the mixtape.
Okay.
Life's a Trip, that's what it was.
They were both on there, but I kind of cut them both out.
Man, maybe that would have honestly been those could be those could be interchangeable for number 2. But I will say a Love Letter to You 3 is just, it's so good.
If Trippie Redd stays out of trouble, I mean, he's a young artist. We've seen a lot of these young artists that have astronomically blown up and then had a terrible fall.
Have you heard the 1400-999 freestyle with Juice WRLD?
That's on the album, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to all of them.
That one. Topanga's on there, and that's one
Topanga's
of his
a great song.
biggest singles. He was on not Jimmy Fallon,
Jimmy Kimmel?
maybe Jimmy Kimmel, performing that one live. He's blowing up, and I can't wait to see what his 2019 looks like. Like you said, if he stays out of trouble, he's got a damn good future.
And he hasn't really gotten into any trouble. No. I'm basing that based off of his age and the people that he was relevant with.
He's label mates with Tekashi 6ix9ine, let's be clear. But he's the one who exposed Tekashi 6ix9ine's past with the underage girl.
Yep, and that really could have been the beginning of that kid's fall.
Yeah, it really could have. However, he used his marketing. He hooked up with Troy.
Let's not say that in a bad way. No. And this isn't like the X thing where it's kind of not 100% proved.
No, it's proved.
What 6ix9ine did with the underage girl in the music video, that is proof. I mean, it's fact.
Yeah, he was. To be fair, he did not sexually assault her. He did not have sex with her. She was used in a music video of some sorts, and he was dancing behind her, and she was performing fellatio on another dude. It's really messed up that he did that, but he bounced back from it relatively well, except for now that he has this other setback with the feds.
Well, let's look at history. Look at what Akon did on stage with that girl.
Yeah.
That's the almost, I don't want to say the same instance, but that is almost the same circumstances.
It was where he used her in a performance. He was grinding on this girl, if you guys don't know. But like, we're talking about like borderline like dry humping on stage. If you go back and see that footage of Akon.
Learn from history.
Yeah, learn. Just don't. Listen, some advice for you face-tatted artists out there. The girls sliding into your DMs are probably young. Mm-hmm. Just don't answer them, and just go find you a nice local girl. Find you one of them nice local girls that you went to high school with, so you know her
number
age.
One. I knew our number one would agree.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this album before.
We did review this one.
We did.
It was a 10 for me. And I told you it was going to be on my top.
What's odd, though, when we talk about X reviews, our most viewed review was actually 17.
Yeah, it was.
And his most popular or successful album is Question Mark, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah. There's some YouTube algorithm going on there, for sure. But, yeah.
Fantastic album.
Incredible. I can always put on this album. I have not stopped playing it since it came out back in March. Sad is his biggest song of his short-lived career. I feel like I miss him more and more every day. You know, I didn't think I would get attached to an artist, and I have lost artists in the past. And to be fair, I knew Mac Miller. I know I didn't know him personally, but I knew him longer as an artist. But the connection that I formed with X's music in such a short amount of time really made his death a lot harder for me. I think probably one of the hardest deaths.
This may be a biased opinion because I like X more than I liked Mac Miller and more than I liked Peep. Yeah. But the circumstances of Peep's death and the circumstances of Mac's death, I don't want to say are totally self-inflicted because obviously they were dealing with demons just like X was dealing with demons. But you can listen to Peep's music and Mac's music and hear about their death, and you would say, like, damn, that makes sense. Listen to what these people were going through. Not to say that X wasn't going through stuff. And a lot of the stuff.
You get robbed, dude. Like,
right.
Robbed.
That was tragic how that ended. The way Peep and Mac, they died in their sleep.
Yeah. If I could give those dudes the $50,000, like, if I could go back in time and hand them a sack and be like, leave this dude alive, I would do it. Like, and I think about that sometimes, like time traveling to go save artists.
You watch too much Rick and Morty.
I watch a lot of just everything. I watch too many freaking conspiracy theory videos.
I mean, it's just and it's sad because those kids that robbed him really thought that money was worth what they did, and now the three of them are going to most likely spend their life behind bars. Four.
One of them was the driver.
Yeah, so he'll end up
just
getting
as
out.
Responsible.
Yes, but he'll end up getting out. I mean, this is the justice system.
They deserve to die.
But the other three will most likely spend their life in prison.
They
all
deserve
over
to die in
a
jail.
share of $50,000.
They deserve to die in jail, to be honest. And I don't wish death on people, but for them to take somebody so young for such a minuscule amount of money, when all things considered, I mean, I don't make that in a year, but I still feel like it's such a minuscule amount of money relative to the impact that X had at such a young age.
I mean, any life.
Any life, of course, yeah. Just any life in general. Nobody should be killed, period.
And we don't want this to be a misconception where we're saying the negativity that surrounded X, the circumstances, the things that he may or may not have done. We're not excusing that at all.
If we're being honest here, Tupac went to jail for sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yet he's still revered.
Yep. So, Dr. Dre beat a woman half to death after a NWA show.
And still revered. And you've got Mike Tyson, went to jail, still revered. People can do messed up things and still be revered for what they've done, pretty much. And for everything that X had to offer as an artist, he wasn't finished, and there was a lot of room for growth. And that's the thing that hurts the most about people like Biggie dying, like Tupac dying, like X dying, like Peep dying, is lost potential. And again, not everybody's perfect. Some people's sins and what they do in this world are a lot worse than others. And he just so happened to be a very disturbed person. And I still, regardless of all of that, I will play 17. I will play question mark.
I'll play
for a long
the members
long
only.
time.
And even though that's
only.
Let's look at it this way. How different is the stuff that X said, if you take away the controversy outside of music, the stuff that Tyler talked about early in his stuff is just as disturbing as the
Tyler
stuff that...
Tyler did it in a more animated way.
Right.
Where it was borderline not believable. When you listen to X's Look at Me, I remember when I played you that song, and we talked about it on here because we did our hidden hits. And I said this dude is a borderline demon because of just how abrasive that song is. And when you get to know X, when you see what kind of other music he's made since then, you can tell that it was kind of in that same vein where it was a little bit animated, but it still was messed up enough to where it was kind of believable, especially with his past. Tyler was really over-exaggerating. He had, his therapist talking to him and all that stuff.
Right, but you still always have the responsibility.
He did get banned from Australia.
Yeah, you have the responsibility of, you don't know who is listening to your art or who is viewing your art. So you always have that responsibility to the listener to not lead them in a way that they shouldn't go. Yeah. And I don't want to discredit any movements going on outside of music, but I'm a believer of innocent till proven guilty. That's the way our justice system is worked, and there was no definitive proof on any of this.
Except for, did you hear about the tape that
Yes,
leaked?
I heard it. But
I heard it too, and I might be in denial. But
that's a little bit of it. But you have to think, look at where he came from, the area he was raised in. He's bragging.
He admitted to beating her.
Right. That is a brag.
Yeah.
Then. And a lot of the people that argued he didn't do it when he said, I fucked her up. People are saying, well, obviously the kid was smart. He had a way with words. He could have been saying that sexually, or he could have been abusing her more mentally than physically. And I think that is, I'm not saying that's less bad.
Any form of abuse is wrong. And
Obviously.
Like I said, I think after that footage came out, I think he did do it. But again, like I said, okay, he did do it. Tupac went to jail for it. Mike Tyson went to jail for raping a woman. And they're still revered in their own separate ways. So X can still be revered regardless of what he had done to that woman. And the fact that they had a child coming together. There had to be some form of reconciliation. There had to be something where they were trying to work things out.
Right.
I think certain people are just coming to this world and they have different challenges.
And let's look at age.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it comes out that Kanye beat up Kim, that's huge. Yeah. The man's an adult. Right. The stuff that he was bragging about, the stuff that he bragged about in prison, he was a teenager. Mm-hmm. I would not want the things I said in high school brought up. If say this podcast blows up and we're the next Anthony Fantano or Adam 22, I would not want the tweets that I tweeted in high school to be made public.
I think about that stuff all the time. So I have 3 different social media accounts. Good luck finding the incriminating stuff. By the way, I'm prepared for this shit to blow up. Not if, it's when, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, look at age. That's a huge thing.
He was 20 years old when he died. I'm 23. We're both 23. The amount of growth that we've had. I mean, come on, dude. Like I'm practically an adult now. You're practically an adult now. The amount of growth that you have in 3 years that he never got to experience, on top of him coming from a very poor background, so that stifles your growth in other ways. On top of being incarcerated, that stifles your growth in other ways. There's so many disadvantages that he had that he just never got to live a regular life, and then he blows up and then he dies. So It was really just short-lived and tragic. But back to the album, it's a beautiful album. It's a beautiful listen. I don't really think there's any skips on there except for 2.
Maddox.
Okay. Well, for you,
I'm not saying that it's a bad song.
Yeah, but it
does
is
not
a skip.
fit the theme of the movie.
It is a skip.
Or
and
the
then
theme of the album.
What's the one that he did with what's his name? That rapper that narrows it down. I can't. Hang on. I'm blanking, guys. I'm sorry.
I'll go the tracks that really hit the highest for me. Moonlight obviously was huge. Sad was huge. Right. Numb was really good. That could have been a punk rock song.
That's like a
and
movie
even on
song.
Skins there was one that was like, damn, this could be an early 2000s rock song. Infinity 888 with Joey Badass, phenomenal song.
P&B Rock smash.
Okay, I like that one, but it didn't fit the album.
That one, even I don't speak Spanish, LOL, a little bit.
I like that.
I like it, but it doesn't. We're talking about songs that just don't fit the theme of the album, and that one doesn't really fit.
And a lot of people said, okay, he's doing that because obviously the Bad Bunny record huge.
Maybe so,
the
but
Cardi
if Drake can do it, he can do it.
But let's also look at where he's from. Mm-hmm. Miami, Dade County, Broward County. That is a huge Hispanic population. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge... And he did have Hispanic roots in his family, I believe. 'Cause his middle name was Ricardo, wasn't it?
I don't know if it was Ricardo.
Yeah, I thought it was Dwayne. I don't know. Regardless, he had influence in Latin
family.
Community.
Yeah, he does have Latin family. It's a great album. It's definitely album of the year for me, despite his death, because you can go back and you can literally hear me say, this is album of the year, far before his death.
Most definitely.
It's just perfect to me. That's a 10.
This, I mean, rest in peace to the. I mean, obviously there were more than X, Peep, and
Rest
Mac.
in peace to Stan Lee. Rest in peace to Mac Miller. Rest in peace to X. Rest in peace to Peep. Rest in peace to everybody that we lost this year. This has been a very sad year, but a very creatively amazing year. And for me personally, a very fruitful year just for my personal life as well. So, but I'm happy with the albums that came out. Also, shout out to Stokely. Ski Mask album that dropped recently.
That was a good album.
Yeah, a lot better than Book of Eli.
I was a little disappointed to not see an X feature with as
see
polarizing
the
as their
music
relationship was. Yeah, as polarizing as the relationship was, you can tell that Ski honestly cared about X.
Oh yeah, he was crying.
Which there is going to be a members only mixtape coming out, and I honestly hope that the violent content is kind of played down, because that's not. Right now, this next year, what his record label does, the last year that he was alive, that's what people are going to remember him for.
Mm-hmm. True. I don't
think it's going to help.
17 will be the definitive X album.
I don't think that a violent members only mixtape is going to do well for his legacy.
No, it won't. But if you guys, we were talking about the music video on the La La music video. Towards the end of the music video is I don't know if it was X, or if it was just a stunt double, but he's standing in front of the car, Ski Mask is driving, and I think that was his own little ode to X. So,
and I think we'll definitely hear something. There will be a Ski Mask X feature in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I think there'll be a couple. But that's it, dude.
So look forward to next year. new location. We're going to be trying to get stuff on iTunes so the platform will be a little more reachable to more people.
So you guys can play it in the background, because I think that's the biggest complaint people have had, because the only way you can play YouTube videos in the background is with YouTube Red, and most people don't want to pay for YouTube,
Nope.
period. So, shout out to everybody.
I remember when YouTube had no ads.
Yeah, yep, not anymore.
Do you remember when there were other sites like YouTube that wasn't YouTube? Like there were like other options.
Yeah.
Now there's not.
You got, no, there really isn't. It's just dominated by YouTube, but, we'll work with it. Shout out to them. Thank you guys for listening. Sorry it's been so long. Life gets busy, but I hope you guys had an amazing year. Before we go, do you want to say your hidden hit? Do you have one?
Let's look at the recently added. This is kind of funny, actually. Well, here's one. Damo Genesis put out a record called Facade Records. It was good.
Was it?
He has a distinct flow and delivery.
Yeah.
An infectious voice. Ice Cube's album Everything's Corrupt was so funny. He has a song called Arrest the President. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Arrest the President?
Yeah, and it's kind of like you can hear a lot of like old Ice Cube, but over some like more modern beats. I'm not saying it would ever make an album of the year list, but I liked it.
I think it was it this one? Hang on, I just need to hear a snippet of it.
You can play like 10 seconds without us getting like a cease and desist.
It wasn't that one. I'm trying to figure out. There was a song on Trippie Redd's A Love Letter to You 3 that I really liked. Campfire Tale. Amazing, just melodic track. It's just Trippie kind of vibing a little bit. I know I was getting on Mac for his singing voice. Trippie's isn't that great, but he works with it and just kind of...
And he has a raw sound.
Yeah, it's raw. Campfire Tales is the rawest song on there to me, and I play it at night and drive really slow and just think about my exes to that song.
On a more serious hidden hit, it's not really so much of a hidden hit. It's gotten a lot of talk. Train Food on Skins.
Yes, yeah.
That song messed me up the first time I heard it.
That ending, Time's Finally Up.
Yep.
That was an Eminem ending, by the way. I think he really pulled from Eminem for that song in a good way.
And that kind of leads to the prophecy of him talking about how he told people that he didn't think he was going to be around for much longer.
All the time.
And the fact that he would record something like this before a death as tragic and as sudden as his, I don't want to use the word amazing because that has a good connotation.
No, it's prophetic.
Yeah.
It was prophetic.
I had goosebumps. I definitely did not like the way I felt the first time I heard it.
It fucked me up. That whole album kind of... another song off that album that I liked, even though it sounded a bit... It was really just kind of unfinished, but... Whoa, Mind and All. I love his voice. I love X's voice. X has a genuinely good singing voice. But that's it, guys. I hope you guys have a great year. Have a happy
Tune in
New
for
Year.
next year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy whatever religion you guys
I think
follow.
It's Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays.
Pretty universal
Happy
now.
Holidays. Happy Holidays. God bless. We love you. Bye.
God bless?
Yeah. Allah bless.
Okay.